Azami is one of the hardest operators to learn in Siege. There are so many potential ways to use her gadget on every map, and that's not even including her ability to mesh well with other defenders' gadgets. So to help you get over that large learning curve, in today's video, I'll be going over all of my favorite Kiba barrier spots on every map. Timestamps will be in the description for your convenience, so you can skip to whatever map you want to see. Anyways, let's go ahead and get started with Bank. Okay, so the first Kibas of the video are going to be some for main lobby on Bank. What you're going to want to do is line the Kibas up with this pillar for this light fixture right here. And you're going to throw it right about here. This is going to block off the windows that a lot of people like to rappel on over there and prevent people from like glass and stuff sitting over there on the windows and shooting your anchors in the bomb site. I like to throw two over here just so it fully covers it. And so they don't get any angle into here without wasting some form of utility to get rid of it. It'll cover the angle into the B bomb site, which is the main reason why I like to get rid of it. And so you don't have to bother barricading these windows anymore. Now the next Kiba goes right here on the back of this couch on the B bomb site. This Kiba gives you some cover to peek the breach, and also protects you from, once again, the banana windows while you're in the bomb site. So if you're in the back of A or whatever, they're not going to be able to have like a super long angle into the bomb site. It's going to be a very small angle, if anything. Then finally, for at least the top floor of Bank, we have a Kiba for Janitor Closet, which is going to protect you from getting swung from the doorway while coming through the rotate. It still allows you to play in Janitor. It doesn't take away much of your angles that you'd normally hold, but it gives you the extra cover of, you know, being able to come through the rotate. Now for the basement of Bank, I have two additional Kibas that you can set up. The first one is on the A bomb. If you throw it roughly about here, it'll give you some cover to play behind, so that way you can peek the default plant if they go to default plant, and also peek the door while still having plenty of cover. Obviously, if they get the sight hatch open, that's going to be an issue for someone playing behind this position. But if they do get that open, you still have the angle onto the doorway from here, so you can still stop someone from walking in. And it doesn't really hurt anything to have it. So I think this is worth it. Obviously, if you have a deployable shield, the deployable shield's better in this position, but I still think a Kiba can make do. Now for the final Kiba, I have one to protect the vault hatch drop in. What you want to do is throw one in the far corner of this cabinet here, which is going to protect the hatch from being able to see, you know, deep into vault. It still has a little bit of an angle that you'll have to worry about, but for the most part, vault is covered. But me personally, I like to throw two on here, so that way it completely covers the hatch for the most part. Obviously, the hatch can still see over here, but it's not going to be able to see anything in gold vault, so you can just sit here, hold this angle, and as soon as they drop in, they're dead. So this is a really strong Azami to cut off any drop in, and you can sit behind this, hold this head glitch, and as soon as they drop in, they're dead pretty much, and they'll have to just guess where you are, which is what I find strong about this one. But anyways, that pretty much wraps up Bank. I'm now going to be moving on to Border and showing you some more Kiba spots. Okay, now for Border, the first Kiba placement I'm going to be showing you is going to be cutting off one of the most annoying angles on this map, in my opinion, and that is the rafters angle. What you're going to want to do is throw two Kibas on this railing right here, and this will completely cut off the line of sight from rafters into the office's hallway. Which, this is just an annoying angle that I don't like attackers being able to just sit here and hold for a long time. So if you reinforce this wall and put two Kibas on this, it basically forces them to waste utility if they want to hold this angle. And it'll give you a warning if they do. Now, the next Kiba is going to be in armory lockers. You're going to want to throw it on this doorway right here, right on the door frame, about at this height. And the point of this Kiba is to cut off line of sight onto half wall when you're rotating in and out of it. So this is the point of view of the attackers. They will not be able to see you rotate into half wall. So you can easily leave it for free. If they go to breach the wall or whatever, you can just run away and they're not going to be able to see you at all. The only thing they can see is your feet run across if they prone right here. But they might be able to hit you once in the foot before you run by, so you're not at risk of actually dying. Next Kiba is for the ventilation bomb site on Border. What you're going to want to do is throw the Kiba about here on this desk right here. And what this Kiba is going to do is it's going to cut off the line of sight from the rotate from the outside double door right here. So if you're an attacker and you're trying to peek the rotate, you're not going to get anything from this at all. You're going to have to push fully in to be able to see the rotate. And this also allows you to play an aggressive angle as a defender to swing on the double door while still having some cover here. Next Kiba placement I'm going to show you on border is a little bit of a strategy that I like to run. What I like to do is to make a crouch rotate into waiting. You can do this with impacts or a shotgun if you have one. And then I like to throw 2 Kibas right here. This covers the rotate from the rafters peak, obviously. And then I like to put 2 Kibas over here later on in the round. These Kibas allow you to hold the bottom of each stairs and customs and passport all from this one power position. And you can also set up a shield over here if you want to give yourself even more of a strong power position right here. And as long as you stack ADSs and put some barbed wire on the staircase, the attackers will actually have a pretty hard time dealing with you. They can play above you, but that's where your roamers are going to come in. But if you want to try to run this strategy, I've actually had pretty decent success with it. I've also seen it done with a castle where you castle this doorway, castle that doorway, and then you play in here with a ton of ADSs. But I think it works better with Azami because it cuts off the rafters peak entirely, so all you have to focus on is the first floor. Anyways, that about wraps up border. I'm now going to be moving on to Chalet for even more Kiba placements. Now, the first Kiba I'm going to be showing you on Chalet is a pretty important one for if you want to hold library. What you're going to want to do is make your way through the library door and throw a Kiba right on this little shelf or whatever you want to call it, roughly in the middle. This Kiba is going to protect you from double window when coming through this doorway, and it's going to allow you to hold this angle onto the single window for free without having to worry about getting swung. This is a exceptionally strong Kiba, and you should run this pretty much every round you're defending master, and you want to hold library, because this gives you so much power compared to what you'd have if you didn't have this Kiba here. Now, our next Kiba just so happens to be right nearby. You're going to want to throw this Kiba roughly about here. What this Kiba does is it protects you from getting peeked from double window when you're playing top fireplace, and it also gives you a little bit of cover from bottom fireplace as well, and gives you a little bit of an advantage in a gunfight that happens from there. Now, for this Kiba, you're going to want to come into the master bedroom bomb site and throw your Kiba roughly about here. What this Kiba does is it protects you mostly from the double window while walking into Solarium. If they're upside down rappel, they'll still get an angle on you, which if you want to stop that, you can throw a second one onto it, but that's entirely up to you whether you want to waste 2 on this single double window. It's just overall beneficial to cut off as many angles from this window because a lot of attackers like to rappel on double window and just hold an angle, and I think it's overall a good thing to have this cut off. And if they go to rappel into the double window, you can still swing them from this little small hole that I made right here, and you also get a nice little angle onto the K9 walk-in as well. Now, for the final Kiba on the second floor, you're going to want to throw this one on the bathtub right about here. This Kiba is once again designed to protect anyone playing in Solarium because it prevents anyone that's outside this bathroom window from seeing you. So you can just play here pretty much for free. You'll still have to worry about nades potentially flying over and hitting the door frame. But if you're playing on Solarium, like on the top of the staircase or something, you don't have to worry about anyone peeking you from bathroom, and you can easily walk back and forth. And with these Kibas here, it allows Solarium to be kind of a protected area for the defenders. Obviously, if they rappel on these windows, it's not as safe, but I find that rarely attackers rappel on this. They're normally either rappelling on that or holding the balcony windows over here. Now, the first Kiba in the basement brings us to blue. What you're going to want to do is throw a Kiba right about here. And what this does is it's going to cut off line of sight from blue. I like to put at least one Kiba here so that way you can just hold their feet as they walk down, and it pretty much forces them to prone to get any sort of angle on you in blue. Now, when playing on the wine cellar bomb site, I like to throw 2 Kibas inside of wine. I like to throw one on this little cabinet right here, right about here. And I like to throw one on the table in the front right about here. Now, what this Kiba does is it gives you protection from the breach if they open this side of the wall right here. And it also gives you protection from the door right here, depending on what angle you're standing at. but it still gives you a tight little pixel to hold on the doorway, and it allows you to swing anyone who walks in, so it doesn't really hurt your line of sight that much. You also can put a Kiba on the other side right about here, and this works to pretty much the same degree, and it allows you to stand above it and peek anyone on the breach or walking into the bomb site. So it gives you a little bit of an advantage because it allows you to hold a head glitch. Either one of these Kibas are really good in my opinion. This one has the disadvantage of not being able to swing the doorway easily, but it has the advantage of being able to hold this head glitch. And the other one has the advantage of being able to peek the doorway easily, but it makes this head glitch a lot harder to hold. And it also doesn't fully protect you from the breach like this does. Okay, well that about wraps up all the Kiba placements on Chalet. I'm now going to be moving on to Clubhouse. Now the first two Kiba barriers for Clubhouse are going to be for the basement bomb site. You're going to want to make your way into the arsenal room, and you're going to want to throw one Kiba right here. This Kiba is going to protect most of the bomb site from kitchen hatch, and it's going to allow you to play a little bit more aggressively on this hatch drop. If they go to drop it, you can get a tiny little angle on the drop in, and you can also get an angle from this side, but the hatch can see you. That's why I think you should throw a 2 right here. So that way it fully covers the bomb site from kitchen, except for all the way over here in dirt. If you want, you can throw a third one here, but I wouldn't recommend it. I personally think that these two are just fine because it allows you to walk in and out of the bomb site without having to worry about the hatch. Now, after you deploy these two Kibas, I think you should also deploy a Kiba right here on this shelf. What this Kiba does is it gives you some protection from the kitchen hatch while you're playing in the back of Arsenal. And so this allows you to play this position without having to worry about being shot from there. Obviously, you can still die from vert holes, but it allows you to hold this position right here without being shot from the hatch. Now, the final Kiba barrier for basement is going to be to protect this blue rotate in church. You're going to want to throw it right here where these two chairs were. And what this is going to do is this is going to protect your blue rotate from anyone walking into Moto. And we all know how annoying it can be if you're playing in blue and your teammates start dying and you want to rotate into church and there's just a guy holding the Moto door. So this kind of removes that issue. And you still have the ability to swing Moto door pretty easily. It's not going to delay you that much time to try to peek someone who's pushing Moto really hard, but it still gives you that added protection. Now, if you're playing the cash bomb site, we all know how annoying someone sitting in con can be because rotating through the default rotate. If there's anyone in con, they're going to kill you pretty much guaranteed. But if you throw this Kiba here, it prevents that entire process. You can still peek people from con if you want to, but it gives you that added protection of being able to rotate without having to worry about it. I personally really like this Kiba, and I like to bring it pretty much every time we go to the CCTV bomb site. Now, for the final Kiba barrier placements on Clubhouse, you're going to want to place 4 Kibas on Garage. Now, I know that's a lot, but trust me, having these Kibas on rafters is a really strong. You're going to want to put 1 on each of these holes in the catwalk right where I'm placing them. Now, these 4 Kiba barriers protect you when you're wanting to rotate from R1 to R2, or from R2 to R3, or over to the head holes over there. And the reason why this is so strong is because, like I said, it allows you to rotate for free, but it also forces the attackers to have to worry about even more angles than what they normally would have to. They have so many angles to worry about in here that it makes it pretty much impossible to push Garage if you're playing it properly. Anyways, that about wraps up Clubhouse, and I'm now going to be moving on to Coastline. Now, the first Kiba barrier you're going to want to place on Coastline is arguably my favorite one on the entire map, which is this one right here. Now, the reason why this Kiba is so strong is because it protects your rotate from the hookah window. So I think this Kiba you should pretty much bring anytime you're picking Azami on hookah. Now, the next Kiba barrier is going to work as kind of like a makeshift castle. You're going to want to throw it at the top of this window right about here. And the reason why this is strong is because it prevents attackers who are sitting up on the top of Courtyard to see all the way into VIP. They only get a small angle into the hallway at your feet. So as you're running by, they might be able to shoot your feet. But while you're actually in VIP, they're not going to be able to shoot at you, which is really, really important, especially if you plan on holding this. Speaking of holding VIP, the next 2 Kiba barriers just so happen to be in this room. The first one I would recommend throwing goes right about here. And what this Kiba does is it protects you from the breach and from anyone trying to peek you through these bookshelves holes, and it allows you to just hold the angle on Hall of Fame or on the breach without having to worry about dying too much. Now, I know what you're thinking. Aren't these bookshelf holes here as well? Well, that's where the next Kiba comes in. I like to throw another one right about here, which covers those holes. So now you can swing anyone on the breach, swing anyone Hall of Fame, and swing anyone Hall of Fame from here. And you're pretty much protected without having to worry about getting wall banged through some bookshelves. And this is actually really strong to hold, especially if you reinforce these outside walls and you place the Kiba I just talked about right here. It pretty much allows you to hold VIP without really anything the attackers can do, other than if they have a thatcher or something to get this wall open. Another Kiba you can throw in here is one right on this shelf right here. And this Kiba just allows you to have some protection while peeking Hall of Fame from this angle. And it just gives you some additional protection, like I said, when you're peeking the breach and the Hall of Fame door. All four of these Kibas are incredibly strong for holding down VIP and can make this a really hard strategy for the attackers to push, especially if you put some magnets in here or something like that. Now, the next two Kibas are going to be for Penthouse. I know this isn't a default bomb site, but if you somehow end up winning Hookah and Kitchen and you find yourself on Penthouse, these two Kibas can be pretty strong. I'd recommend putting the first one right about here on the bomb chassis. Now, the reason why this one's strong is because it protects your rotate from the double window. The only way they can hold the rotate is if they upside down rappel. And it also allows you to play behind the bed without getting shot from double window. So you can play a little bit aggressively on the Hall of Fame door or penthouse or bathroom door, excuse me. And the other Kiba that's really strong is right here where this table is at. If you throw a Kiba right about here, it once again protects you from the double window while you're playing behind the wardrobe, but it still gives you an angle on the Hall of Fame door and on the bathroom door if you want to. And so these two Kibas together can make double window basically useless for the attackers. They're going to get very little angles into the bomb site unless they're upside down repelling. Now, for the final couple of Kibas, they're going to be for the service kitchen bomb site. And the first one is going to go on service right next to this fire extinguisher. Now, the purpose of this Kiba is to protect the doorway into kitchen from the serviced outside door. So when you're rotating in, they can't peek you from this window right here. This window is just honestly stupid, and I really hate that this window's here. Most of the time I have this castled off if I bring a castle, but if you end up bringing a zombie, this is a good way to deal with that window. Now, the final two Kiba barriers for Coastline, they're gonna be right here near this A-bomb. The first one is gonna be placed right about here. This gives you some protection from the window while you're playing on the bomb chassis, which now if you've played Kitchen a lot, you know how many angles there are on this bomb site and how pinched you feel. But this Kiba can help you alleviate some of that because now you can play behind this bomb without having to worry about getting swung. And then the other Kiba that I like to place is right here on the shelf. This, once again, gives you some additional protection from the sunrise hallway, so that way if you want to swing, you can swing. And it also gives you a little bit of a pixel angle right here that the attackers probably won't expect, but this makes this hold a lot safer, and it allows you to hold this later on in the round when the attackers are pitching you from the window and the doorway. Anyways, that about wraps up Coastline, and we're now going to be moving on to Consulate. Now, for the first couple Kiba barriers on Consulate, you're going to want to be on the garage bomb site. And I think the first good Kiba barrier goes right about here in the middle of this banister. This Kiba barrier is very default. I'm sure most of you have heard about this already. But the main use of it is that it cuts off any line of sight from yellow into the bomb site. So the attackers can't really peek you. They get a slight angle on this white band, which if you want to solve that, you can throw a second one, which I normally do anyway. I normally put two on this, because putting two Kibas on this makes it a lot harder for the attackers to get any angles out of it. But if you stack up multiple Kibas on this railing, it allows you to basically cut off any angles from the attackers pushing into yellow at all. Now, the next Kiba barrier for garage goes right here. The main reason why these Kibas are strong is because it allows you to hold this angle from pipes without even really being contested. It gives you an angle right into where the default plan normally is without the attackers being able to see you. So you can just sit here, hold this angle with your 1.5 or whatever you have, and as soon as the attackers run in, they die, and then now you've denied the plant. And this is to make up for the fact that you can no longer run up to yellow and peek them. Now you can still hold this angle and just kill anyone running into the default plant. It's a really strong position. Now the final Kiba for garage is this one near white van. This is a little bit more of an experimental Kiba that I've been messing around with in ranked, but I've had moderate success with it. This allows you to have basically a deployable shield behind the white van, so it gives your body a little bit of protection during gunfights, and it allows you to hold somewhat of a head glitch, and it still allows you to rotate and deny the plan if you need to. So it doesn't cut off any rotation, but it just provides you some extra cover while playing on white van. Now for the next barrier, you're going to want to be on long desk, and I like to throw a Kiba right about here. Now the reason this Kiba is so strong is because it still allows you to see angles into printer door, hold the vending hallway, and to, you know, swing from the left side, but it shuts down attackers from being able to crouch down one of the most commonly crouched down areas, which is long desk. A lot of the times attackers will go by your teammates without being noticed, and they'll try to crouch their way into the rotate that's normally right here. And if they try to crouch their way in through the long desk, it gives them plenty of protection from the CEO bomb site, and it just allows them to easily sneak in there. But with this Kiba there, they're going to have to crouch up and either melee it and make a ton of noise, or they're going to have to crouch around, which opens them up to so many more angles before walking into the rotate. So this Kiba serves multiple purposes, which is why I think it's a really good one and you should be running it a lot. Now the final two Kibas I'll be showing off for Consulate just so happen to be an admin. I like to throw one Kiba barrier right about here, and I like to throw one Kiba barrier right in front of this window here. These two Kibas serve the purpose of allowing you to hold inside of admin for a lot longer because you have bulletproof protection between you and both of the powerful windows that a lot of people repel on. If you want even more protection, you can throw a third one right here. But I think it's overall a waste to have this many Kibas into admin. But the reason why these Kibas are strong is because it still allows you to swing anyone who repels in while having the added benefit of protection behind these bulletproof walls and also from the window, like I said. And if you run away, obviously they're not going to be able to shoot at you while you're trying to run away because there's a Kiba right in front of them. Anyways, that wraps up Consulate, and we're now going to be moving on to Emerald Plains. Now for the first Kiba barrier on Emerald Plains, you're going to want to throw it on the double window in meeting. The reason why you want this Kiba barrier to be here is to protect your rotation while you're running from art into meeting, vice versa, and it just stops them from being able to hold a stupidly long angle from library once they get control of it. This is one of the stupidest parts about Emerald, and I'm kind of happy that Azami can get rid of that entirely. Now the next Kiba I recommend throwing is right here on this doorway. I like to throw it at the top right there. And the reason why this Kiba is strong is because it gives you somewhat of an angle deep into hunting that they're not going to be able to see unless they crouch, and they're even still going to barely see you. So it gives you a huge advantage in a gunfight over them because you get to see this long, really good angle while they're barely seeing anything. And it also helps to protect you when you're rotating through this sight rotation, because a lot of the times they'll get, you know, hunting control and just sit there and hold an angle so you can't rotate between the two bomb sites. But with this half wall and Kiba barrier here, it pretty much prevents them from holding that angle entirely. Now another Kiba barrier I like to set up is in here on library near the window, right here on this banister. I like to throw it in the top right about there. Now the reason why I like this barrier so much is because it protects your rotation across library into this bookshelf. So you can easily hold, you know, this long angle. If you don't put this Kiba here, you can hold down there. And you can also hold storage without having to worry about getting swung from this window. And it basically forces them to go on upside down rappel if they want to get any angle. But the good part about this is you can still hold this angle at the top of the staircase for when they vault in and just pop their head as soon as they come in. So it doesn't get rid of this angle right here, but it gets rid of the angle from the window, and it stops people from being able to sit at the top of the staircase and hold this angle unless they destroy it, obviously. But yeah, I think this is a really slept on Kiba, and I like it a lot. Now, next up, we have two Kibas for inside of painting. Obviously, when you're protecting this bomb site, the bomb goes right here, but this can be used with the bomb here or without the bomb here, it doesn't matter. But in general, I like to throw one Kiba right here in painting, and then another one right here on this wall. And the reason why these two Kibas are so strong is because if someone's rappelling on the window right here, they can't shoot you through this soft wall. And if you put a Kiba here, it stops people from storage being able to shoot through this soft wall. But it allows you to play this power position without having to worry about just getting randomly pre-fired through these stupid soft walls in the bomb site. Now for the final Kiba barrier on Emerald, I like to put one in games right about here on the table. Now the reason why this is a good Kiba barrier is because it allows you to play aggressively on the breach while still having some cover, and it cuts off most of the line of sight the attackers can get from this breach. They can basically only really get an angle onto this wall right here, and they can kind of get an angle onto the side right here. But for the most part, this breach isn't going to give them much. And if you want to double up on this, you can throw, you know, an additional on this side, an additional on this side, if you want to cover the whole pool table. But I think this Kiba gets the job done because, like I said, it allows you to play aggressively on this breach without really having to worry about much. Anyways, that about wraps up Emerald, and we're now going to be moving on to Cafe. Now, for the first Kiba placement on Cafe, it's going to go in the back right here on the kitchen like counter in the back. And the reason why this Kiba is strong is because it allows you to hold an angle on the prep right here, and allows you to hold an angle on the breach, whilst having some additional protection, because trying to hold kitchen without this here is pretty much a nightmare, especially once they get this wall open, because they just have so many angles to peek you from. But with this setup we have here, it allows you to hold kitchen for a little bit longer once they get this wall open. And another Kiba that can go down here is the one right here on this double window. I like to put a Kiba right in the middle, somewhere around here. And what this Kiba allows you to do is it gives you some additional cover on the double window while still having an angle into prep to hold. But you can just duck behind this wall if you start getting pre-fired or whatever. You have this potential piece of cover to hide behind, whereas normally you'd have to, you know, just accept your fate when peeking this double window. I also like putting a shield like right about here as well, so you can crouch up and watch this angle. But obviously, for the purposes of this video, I put a Kiba here. But a shield or a Kiba here is always really strong. Now, for the next two Kiba placements, I like to put two on the skylight right here in bar. Now, the reason these are so strong is because it literally cuts off pretty much every angle the attackers get on the skylight into freeze. Now, I have three more Kiba placements for here in stage. I like to put one on the mini bar right here. Now, the reason why I like that Kiba so much is because it cuts off any angles that the attackers can get from mini bar that go into lounge. So while you're playing in lounge, you know, on the corner over here on your shield, like on Pixel, they can't really shoot you unless they go on upside down rappel on like a slight angle, but you can shoot them pretty easily from there. And also with the next two Kibas, which I place here and here, it cuts off the attackers from being able to peek you from stage windows as well. So you're pretty much free to walk around in here, play aggressive on the breach. All of that because these stage windows are now completely safe. So you can get a little more aggressive than normal without having to worry about anyone on window rappel. Now for the final two Kibas on Cafe, I like to put two in bakery. One right here on the counter. And I like to put one on this doorway on the top. Now, the reason why these two Kibas are strong is because, one, this one provides you some additional cover instead of having a, you know, massive hole in the counter for some reason. You now have the full counter to play behind, and you don't have to worry about, you know, while you're crouching over here reloading, someone shooting you through this. You can just easily, you know, stand up, swing, and, you know, it just allows you to play a little safer behind this. Now, the reason why this one I like so much is because it cuts off the black car angle. So they can't jump up here and hold this black car angle into the counter because the only thing they can really see is that small big wall, but they can't see the actual counter itself. This completely cuts it off. And it also prevents, you know, a lot of attackers from being able to rush you because they're going to have to crouch under this or melee it at the very least. And when they're meleeing it, you'll get an audio cue. And, you know, if they melee it you can just throw another one back up there if you're playing here in Bakery. Anyways, that wraps up Cafe, and we're now going to be moving on to Canal. Now, for the first 2 barriers on Canal, you're going to want to throw one right about here, and then the second one right below it. This is so while you're holding Skybridge, you get a stupid angle from behind this wall in control. It allows you to see the feet of the attackers when they can't even see you. They crouch, they still can't even see you depending on where they're standing. And so you can get an angle on their feet way before they can even react and shoot you, which is extremely strong. Another Kiba I like to set up here to protect myself while I'm holding this is to throw one on the bomb right about here. This will cut off any angles from the breach and will allow you to sit here and hold this angle without getting shot from the breach. And trust me, if you try to hold this without this Kiba, you will die like 99% of the time. So you want that Kiba there. Now, the attackers may destroy it with a Gon 6 or whatever, but that's why you want to stack ADSs right here to protect this Kiba. Now, the last Kiba spot I'll be showing you for upstairs is this one on green. I like to throw one right about here. This Kiba will cut off the attackers from being able to, you know, fully sprint up the staircase, up the middle. They'll have to run up the sides to do it. And so that forces them into one of 2 angles that you can easily kill them on. And it also cuts off a lot of their line of sight in Museum up into green. They're not going to be able to just hold the green staircase right here. So you'll get plenty of warning before they're about to peek you. So, you know, you can sit here, hold this angle on 90 without having to worry about getting swung from Museum, which is a huge plus. Now, for one of the Kiba spots I like to put on Basement, I like to put one on Scuba Stairs right here. Now, the strength of this Kiba is that it cuts off the attackers from being able to walk down Scuba Stairs entirely. They have to crouch under this Kiba to even be able to make it down the staircase, which allows you to, you know, shoot their feet if they try to walk up and melee it, or if they go to crouch and you hear the sound of them crouching, you can easily swing and get a free kill. So this pretty much forces them to destroy this Kiba to, you know, go down the staircase unless they feel like dying. So this is a good way to waste some utility or to potentially pick up a free kill. Now, the last Kiba I'm going to be showing you guys on Canal is this one right here in Bomb B. Now, the reason why this Kiba is so good is because it cuts off the line of sight from Scuba to the rotate. So if you have, you know, attackers that somehow, you know, make it into Scuba, whether that be through the double window or down the staircase, you can basically rotate between the bomb sites for free without having to worry about, you know, getting swung from Scuba. So you'll have to move all the way out here before Scuba can even see you, which is a huge plus. Anyways, that about wraps up Canal, and I'm now going to be moving on to Nighthaven. Now, for the first Kiba here on Nighthaven, I like to put one in here on command by the desk, right about here under the cell phone. The reason why I like this Kiba is because it gives you an angle to swing anyone coming in through the door right here, but it gives you some extra protection, so that way, you know, if you want to play here, you have the benefit of being able to sit behind this Kiba and not have to worry about, you know, getting flanked from blue randomly. And if you put, you know, an Elamine or some barbed wire in here, you can just wait for the sound of the audio cue and then immediately swing. But in the meantime, you can, you know, be holding these head holes or whatever. And then as soon as you hear the sound of someone coming blue, they're dead. Now, when playing on the upstairs bomb site, I like to play with Azami on rafters. And the way I get away with that is I like to put one Kiba on this doorway, one Kiba on that doorway. And then I like to put one last Kiba right there on the railing. Now, the strength of these Kibas is that this one protects you from getting shot in IT when you're standing on this staircase, so you can peek aggressively on this doorway and try to kill anyone walking through here without having to worry about getting shot from the breach. And then this Kiba obviously protects you from anyone holding an angle in storage, and then this one protects you from anyone holding an angle in the warehouse entrance right there. So overall, these 3 Kibas are incredibly useful. Now, when I'm playing on the kitchen bomb site, I like to play in games and try to defend this area of the map, because once they get control of games, it's very hard to keep control of cafeteria and kitchen. Now, to help me accomplish my task of playing in games, I normally like to throw one Kiba right about there. Now, the reason why that Kiba is strong is because it cuts off any angle from the hallway doorway into games. The only angle they get is one right here, which you're gonna be swinging if you want to, you know, take a gunfight. You can swing this, but otherwise you can sit behind the safety of this Kiba and, you know, engage someone in storage, or it allows you to fall back out of games without dying to someone in the hallway. Also, another benefit of this Kiba is that allows you to jump up on the pool table and get a deeper angle into the hallway while having, you know, your lower half of your body protected by this. Now, when holding in the basement, cargo can be a little bit of a problem. If the attackers are able to, you know, sneak their way into the staircase, they can easily wreak havoc on the bomb site because now they have an angle into pretty much the entirety of the bomb. But these two Kibas can get rid of that issue. The first one you should throw right about here. This Kiba shuts off them from being able to see into the assembly door, so you can play here, you know, get aggressive on the breach, you know, whatever you want to do. You can play in this bomb site, rotate, whatever, and you don't have to worry about them peeking you from cargo. The other Kiba that's really strong for cutting off lines of sight is this one right here. This one stops them from being able to see the doorway into Nano. So you can run out of Nano, do whatever you need, and they won't be able to see you. Now, another Kiba I like to put in the basement is right here on this counter in Nano. Now, the reason why I like this Kiba so much is because it protects you from this little hallway right here. It allows you to jump up onto the counter and have your lower half of your body protected. And it allows you to swing aggressively onto anyone in the hallway while having some cover. Now, for the final Kiba on Nighthaven, I like to put one right here where the head holes normally go. After making the head holes, I like to put one right about here. And the reason why I like this Kiba so much is because if you jump up on this table, I still get an angle onto the default plant where they go to, you know, plant normally. So I can just shoot someone as soon as they go to plant and kill them pretty much instantly. And as long as you hit your shots, you know, you can shut down any plant from right here. And it gives you the benefit of having additional cover. So when the attackers see this Kiba, they're going to think, oh, okay, half this head hole is clear. We might actually be able to go for a plant. So when they smoke this off, when they smoke the doorways off, they'll run over here, go for a plant, and you'll just shoot them right as they vault up onto this crate. Because like I showed you, you can see this crate. So this angle is really stupid. I love using this angle in ranked. It's super fun. Anyways, that wraps up Nighthaven, and it is now time to move on to Oregon. Now, for the first Kiba on Oregon, I like to throw one in the attic to protect you from anyone, you know, peeking this pit right here. So I like to throw a round right here on this box. And what this does is it cuts off any line of sight that the attackers could have from seeing the rotate, while you can see their feet through this little hole right here. And the only way they can see you is if they crouch or prone right here. This is a really good Kiba in my opinion. Following that up, we have one for double window, which I like to throw right about here. Now, the strength of this Kiba is that it protects you on white from double window. So, you know, you can rotate in from white and not have to worry about getting shot until you're all the way over here. So it allows you to, you know, run over here on double window without getting shot. And if you like to put a rotate here, it allows you to go through this rotate without being shot from double window. Also, on top of that, it allows you to get a nice angle onto anyone coming in from hunting. This is a pretty default Kiba along with the one in attic. A lot of YouTubers talk about these two, but they're very strong. Now, another Kiba I like to set up when I'm on the game's bomb site is right here in Master on the closet door. Now, you may be wondering, what's the strength of this Kiba? Well, the strength of this Kiba is that if the attackers want to push the closet or, you know, hard breach the closet, they have to waste utility to get rid of this, or they have to walk up and melee it, which if they're in melee range, they're in the doorway, which means you can shoot them. This leaves attackers very vulnerable and in an iffy situation where they either have to, you know, waste a Gone 6, waste a Zofia charge, waste an Ash charge, waste nades or whatever to get rid of this Kiba, so that way they can get the wall open. Now, the final two Kibas for upstairs just so happen to be in here in Armory. I like to throw one right about here and one right here. Now, the reason why these two Kibas are strong is because it allows you to, you know, hold off the impending armory push if they go to, you know, repel there or whatever. They have no angle on you in armory at all. They have to, you know, throw a nade onto the window. They have to destroy these Kibas in some way to be able to kill you, or they have to play below to kill you. So you can, you know, hold main stairs and armory without even having to worry about the window at all. You can also put some ADSs in here if you want to protect yourself, like either back here or over here if you want. But me personally, I don't bother with the ADSs because as soon as they destroy this, I'll just rotate away onto, you know, the trophy door. Now for the final two Kibas on Oregon, I like to throw them both on the tower stairs. I throw one right here, and then I like to throw one right here. Now, the strength of these two Kibas is that it completely shuts down any sort of rotation down tower stairs without them, you know, meleeing this or crouching. And it also cuts off a lot of the line of sight that they would normally be able to get on the staircase. They can't see E-Box door unless they prone. They have a harder time seeing into blue door without, you know, proning or crouching. And they have a harder time seeing into pillar. They can still see a lot of the important angles, but it's a lot more difficult. That about wraps up Oregon, and I'm now going to be moving on to Outback. Now, for the first Kiba on Outback, I have one that no one talks about, and that is a Kiba to watch shark stairs. If you make the head holes here that I just showed, and you put a Kiba on the bottom of this wall right here, it gives you a bulletproof surface to peek up, kill people on shark, peek up, kill people on terrace, and then crouch immediately back behind. And if you put this reinforced wall here, you peek up, your body's protected while you're peeking, and then you're back behind a reinforced wall that's completely bulletproof. If you put barb on that doorway and barb on the staircase, it makes this a nightmare for the attacker to push unless they play below you and nade you, or unless they get rid of this Kiba somehow, whether that be through, you know, soft utility or whatever you want to call it. But just having this angle is incredibly strong. Now, my next Kiba berry is to help with the party bomb site because, you know, the default rotate normally goes here. But obviously that leaves you massively open to this doorway. If you want to stop that, you can throw a Kiba right here, and it completely protects your rotate from the doorway. You can rotate into the bomb site without having to worry about it at all. Obviously, this doesn't stop the attackers from just sitting here and holding this angle right here and waiting for you to peek through the rotate, but it does stop them from actually seeing the rotation itself. So if you play it right and you make a shotgun hole right here, you can easily rotate in the bomb site without any issues. Now, the next Kiba I'm going to be showing you guys is a little bit more of an experimental one. I've only used this like 2 or 3 times before, but every single time I've used it, it worked. So I'm going to be showing you guys it in this video. I like to throw a Kiba on terrace right here on the picnic table. And now the reason why this Kiba is good is because it allows you to peek, you know, top of shark stairs, the terrace double door, while having some additional cover. Trying to play in here is normally a death trap, but with this Kiba, you can actually last a decent amount of time, especially if you put some ADSs on the door to protect you and maybe some, you know, barbed wire or whatever. You can sit back here and hold this off for a decent amount of time. And if you ever need to, you know, get away, you can just do this and rotate away. Now for my only Kiba on red and green, I like to put one Kiba right here. If you're playing on this bomb site, normally the default rotate goes here, and so this Kiba will completely shut down anyone coming from reptile stairs being able to see your rotate. Obviously, this is pretty standard stuff at this point. I've showed you guys multiple Kibas, you know, protecting a rotate, but this one is pretty much, you know, standard. It's pretty similar to all the other ones I've showed you in this video. Now, when defending laundry, you're obviously going to want the rotate here, so that way you don't get shot from games, because if you put the rotate here, it's completely vulnerable to bull in games. If you put it here, it's only vulnerable to terrace. But obviously that's a huge issue because it's a long angle all the way into the back of laundry. So the way you cut that off is by putting a Kiba right here on the box. This completely cuts off the line of sight, and it allows you to rotate freely between the two, and it still gives you the ability to swing on people coming into terrace. Now, 2 more Kibas I like to put when I play up here is I like to make the shower rotate, and then put one Kiba right here on the shower. And then I like to put one on this game's table right here. Now, the reason why this is strong is because A, it allows you to have this rotate without being swung from bull every time you try to leave, because now you're freely able to peek this without getting shot from bull. And the other reason why it's strong is because if there's no one in bull, you can vault up on here and you have a long angle into the back of bumps. If you put the Kiba a little bit lower than what I did, if you put it down here on the like middle of the red and the orange, it gives you an even better angle into bunks. And you can put it even lower if you want to, but then you run the risk of it not covering your full body. So it's entirely up to you where you put it. But these two Kibas together can be a force to be reckoned with, and it's an angle that not a lot of people expect. That about wraps up Outback, and it's now time to move on to Skyscraper. Now, for the first Kibas I'm going to be showing you on Skyscraper, they're involved in a strategy that I like to run with my rank stack when we go on office and house. Now, the way I like to set this up is I make a rotate here. Then I throw one Kiba on the dragon railing right here. And the reason this exists is to cut off any angles that the attackers could have deep into dragon, and it forces them to walk around before they can see this rotate. Then I like to put one Kiba on the back of the dragon right here. This is to once again cover the rotate, so that way when the attacker swings this, they only get a very small portion of the rotate, if anything. And then I like to put two more Kibas right here, which I'll show you in a second. Now, the reason why I like this extension so much is because it allows you to hold Dragon and Terrace all at once. If you put some ADSs right here, you put some ADSs over here in Terrace, and then you play right here, it allows you to hold this window in the Terrace, the door in the Terrace, the drum, Dragon, and all of it pretty much all at once. But when you're using this strategy, you are pretty much guaranteed to die. So don't expect to live through the round. You're more than likely going to die once the attackers start focusing up on you, but your main goal is just to burn as much time as possible. Now, another Kiba I like to place when I'm playing on the kitchen bomb site is right here on the counter. This Kiba allows you to run in and out of pantry without getting shot from the reception window right there. And it also has the added benefit of giving you some extra cover when swinging stage or when swinging anyone walking in from reception over there. So overall, this is a pretty decent Kiba. Now, the final Kiba spots I'm going to be showing you for Skyscraper is on house stairs. I like to put one right there on this part of the house staircase. And the reason why this one is good is because, once again, it cuts off a lot of angles onto the house staircase, and it's gonna slow them down on their take up here. But mainly the reason why this is strong is because it cuts off a lot of their angles. You can also throw one right here, and this one pretty much shuts down anyone that's peeking from here seeing the house staircase. These are a little scuffed, this placement. Normally it won't cut off like this. I think it's because I placed this one first and not this one. But overall, these two Kibas are pretty decent. Anyways, that about wraps up Skyscraper, which I know that was very little Kiba spots for this map, but to be totally honest, I don't play Azami that much on Skyscraper, so I don't have that many spots to show you. But with Stadium, I have a lot more. Now, for the first couple Kiba placements on Stadium, that brings us to Penthouse, where you're going to want to make the default rotate. And then I like to put one Kiba right about here, and one Kiba right here on this rail. Now, the reason why these are strong is because it obviously is protecting the rotate. And if any attackers try to come through metal stairs, you have an angle on the bed to shoot them from, which they more than likely will not expect. It doesn't really corner you at all. The only thing it might let someone do is if they hold that window right there, they might be able to walk into the bomb site and plant right here. But you have impacts, so you can just destroy this Kiba if that happens, and you more than likely have explosives as well. I think both of these Kibas are pretty much necessary if you plan on having the rotate here. Now, to follow those two up, I have a Kiba placement on Armory that I really like, which is putting one right here on the half wall. And the reason why this is so strong is because it allows you to see the doorway and the breach if you need to, but it allows you to crouch behind the cover. Now, if they destroy this, you're pretty much dead. But that's the whole point of this. You're supposed to be wasting as much time as possible. And once the attackers get rid of this Kiba, you will die, but at least you are able to waste some sort of time on the attackers. Now for these next 2 Kibas, I like to set them up so that way you can have an extension into offices, because offices is a really important thing to defend when you're playing armory. So you're going to want to make a rotate here, reinforce this middle wall, and then you're going to throw 1 Kiba here, and you're going to throw 1 Kiba right here behind this TV. Now, the reason why these 2 Kibas are important is because it protects your rotate from the doorway and from the hallway, while still allowing you to peek the breach if they make a breach in the office's wall, and to peek the doorway. This Kiba setup is really, really cool. I like it a lot. Now, when playing on the kitchen bomb site, this may not seem natural to you, but for me personally, I like to set up 3 Kibas in here. I like to set up 1 right here, and then 2 across the counter right here. Now, the reason why I like to set these up is because A, it actually allows you to play here on the counter without getting shot from the window, because on the normal form of border, there's normally a bomb right here and a shelf that would allow you to play here. But since that doesn't exist, it pretty much makes it impossible to play anywhere in here in kitchen without getting shot from the window. But if you set up this Kiba here, you can play safely right here. And with these 2 Kibas, it allows you to rotate without anyone sitting on kitchen windows shooting you. Now, it still leaves a slight pixel for you to shoot anyone if you want to get aggressive on the kitchen window. But for the most part, this is just mainly used so that way you can rotate back and forth. Now, the attackers can use utility to get rid of this stuff, which is why I would recommend putting like 2 ADSs on this window or something. But I do think these Kibas improve your chance of winning kitchen a lot. Now, for the final Kiba on Stadium, I would recommend putting 1 on the default kitchen rotate right on that fridge. This is because, once again, Stadium doesn't have a bomb right here to protect the default rotate. So you're pretty much left open if you want to make a rotate hole here. And that is why this Kiba needs to be placed here, because it basically acts as the bomb chassis. You can play up against it right here, have an angle into the main lobby door right there, and you can also swing service. Overall, this is a must-have Kiba on kitchen. Anyways, that wraps up Stadium, and it is now time to move on to Theme Park. Now, for my first Kiba on Theme Park when I'm defending Initiation, I like to throw it right here on the back of the waiting room chairs. The purpose of this is to cut off the attackers from being able to hold a long angle all the way into cache from right here. So if the attackers are holding the waiting double door, they don't just get in a line of sight all the way to the other end of the map. They have to either take that map control or destroy this Kiba to be able to see that. It also allows your cache players to potentially rotate in right here and surprise the attackers and swing them from 2 more angles that the attackers normally wouldn't have to worry about. Another 2 Kibas I like to set up while I'm defending the Inish bomb site is right here on the top of Dragon. If you throw 2 Kibas over here, it allows you to play safely on the top of Dragon without having to worry about, you know, getting swung from down there. And it also gives you a little bit of an angle to swing people. It's not much, but it's enough. And if you play up here and can survive for long enough, you can make it a lot harder for the attackers to be able to take things like Control, Cache, and obviously Dragon itself. So this is a really strong power position. If you can play this right and, you know, not get naded, you'll be in a really strong position. Now, my favorite Kiba for the Throne Bomb site is right here on this green box. I like to throw it right about here. Normally, the bomb is right here, so that would be protecting that. And then this Kiba allows you to jump up on the green box, swing anyone on Dragon, and it allows you to have some cover in the bomb site when you're trying to rotate from split, because like I said, the bomb's here as well. So you're basically allowed to run in and out of split without dying. Now, for my final Kiba placements on Theme Park, I like to set up 3 on the top arcade when I'm playing on the bunk bomb site. I like to place 1 on this arcade machine, and then 2 on this little spaceship here. I like to place 1 right about here, and 1 right here. Now you may be wondering, what's the point of these Kibas? Well, it's so you can hold top arcade and fend off the attackers from being able to flank B from this doorway. Because as long as you have this control, then the rest of your teammates don't have to worry about this A door or this B door as long as you're alive right here. So you're basically shutting down half of the potential entrances into the bomb site by holding down this one position. Anyways, that about wraps up Theme Park, and it is now time to move on to Villa. Now for the first Kiba of Villa, I like to place one in 90 when I'm playing on the game's bomb site, and that entails me putting it right about here. Now, the reason why this Kiba is so good is because it allows you to play in 90 without getting shot from the window. Now, if you want to add another one, me personally, I like to throw one right here, which I'll show you in a second. And what this does is it completely cuts off the top of the window, and it allows you to play aggressively onto the bookshelf hall without even having to peek the window. So it keeps you completely protected while you're playing aggressively on the bookshelf's hall. Now, if you guys have been watching me for a while, you likely know that when I play on the trophy statue bomb site, I like to have someone set up in the closet with a deployable shield. And this is extremely strong. It allows you to delay a ton of time on anyone pushing in faster. But to aid in that defense, I like to set up a Kiba right here. This Kiba shuts off any line of sight from the fireplace window into the closet. So that means that you're easily able to jump up and shoot someone here if you need to without getting shot from another angle. And if they vault into the fireplace window, they're vulnerable to anyone on the side door. Now, some additional barriers I like to set up when I'm playing on trophy statuary is in astronomy. I like to set up two Kibas in here, one on the black box right here, and one on the desk right here. These two Kibas allow you to hold the bathroom door with a tight little angle here, but it gives you a ton of additional cover. And the attackers are going to have a lot harder of a time pushing this because they don't know where you're going to be peeking. Are you going to be prone peeking them like so? Or are you going to be standing? Or are you going to be on the right side? And in my experience, this is quite effective. You can opt for having one or two of these. You don't just have to have both. You can go with one and it'll be just enough. But me personally, I like to have both set up at the same time. Now for the final two Kibas of the entire video, they are going to be in the kitchen bomb site. I like to set up my first Kiba right here on this box. And then the second Kiba right here on the end of the counter. The reason these are two good Kibas is because this one allows you to peek up into China and have the bottom half of you protected, and it allows you to swing and still have some protection. The problem with not having this here is that when an attacker goes to swing into the bomb site, they completely can clear this in just 2 seconds, and all they have to worry about is this rotate here or someone in kitchen. But if you have this Kiba here, now they have to worry about someone potentially being behind the bomb, on the Kiba, and on the rotate, so it gives them an additional angle that they have to worry about. The reason why this Kiba is so strong is because, once again, you can vault up on the counter and peek someone coming up pantry. But, once again, if someone comes up pantry, they get half the visibility they normally would when they're holding this angle. All they can see is this China door right here and the back near the ovens. But this is pretty much useless. And if the attackers see this Kiba, a lot of the times they'll just give up trying to take pantry altogether unless they have this wall open, because literally holding this angle gives you nothing. That about wraps up today's video, y'all. I hope you guys can get some use out of these spots in your ranked games. If you enjoyed today's video, I make Siege content just like this twice a week, so subscribe and follow me on Twitter so that you don't miss the next upload. If you want to watch another video just like this one, a video will be popping up on your screen right now. I'll see you next time, friends, and peace.